that's all I've got for upcoming events and announcements, guys. Let's jump right into our topics of the show. We're going to start with number one. And
number one.
Seth, have you seen this trailer? This new trailer.
Which trailer?
This trailer right here. You've seen the Mortal Kombat trailer.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Now, the thing that I appreciate most about this trailer is you'll notice the red background. This is the red band trailer. Yes. So this is the we can do what we want and show what we want, which I think is the correct way to showcase Mortal Kombat.
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, definitely, if you want to roll through this, man, what a trailer. What a trailer.
The trailer makes me very hopeful for this movie. If you're listening on audio, go watch the trailer for Mortal Kombat. You can also go come to youtube.com/RocketPunchGo and check out the trailer here. We've got it rolling on B-roll. But as it's going, this made me think. This is one of the topics I wanted to talk about because the trailer looks great. This finally looks like the authentic Mortal Kombat movie. You know, unfortunately, it doesn't have the techno theme song like the other ones did back in the 90s, but it looks very good, very true to its roots. But we've all seen great promise from video game movies in the past, and they've let us down. So, Seth, I wanted to ask, I wanted us to talk. With this new trailer being released, what are some of our favorite and our worst, in our opinion, movies that have been released that are based on video game properties in some way? And really, what do we look for, or what do we expect in a movie, a video game movie, that makes it good? Like, what does Mortal Kombat have to do in order for us to say it's a good or great video game movie, as opposed to some of the shovelware and bad garbage that we've gotten in the past, which tends to be a lot of them? I don't know. You start us off, man. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the conversation that we're going to have here. We're going to talk about the world, I think, of trailers and kind of pre-launch expectations, and then like the reality of like launching a movie. And it's also really impossible to talk about newer movies. Like, so for example, Mortal Kombat, it's really impossible to talk about these movies without thinking about and factoring in like the idea of streaming services and whatnot as being kind of the new normal for a lot of movie premieres and whatnot.
Yeah.
But to kind of cut to the core of your thing, I'm going to,
he takes the blood and you, come on. Sorry. You're fine.
I'm going to actually tap into some of my my degree is in I have a degree in film and communication and particularly story, but like film in particular is a very narrative format. And there is this idea around icons, right? There's different icons, and the very first one that a lot of people spring to mind when you think about like an icon is Robin Hood, right? So think about Robin Hood and visualize in your brain, and do this at home, also viewer/listener. Visualize Robin Hood. Now, what's really unique about Robin Hood is you're visualizing it, but the version that you are thinking about is not the same as the version I'm thinking about. However, there are commonalities that link that together, right? So we start to ask ourselves, who is Robin Hood? Robin Hood wears the green costume, he has the bow and arrow, and he steals from the rich and gives to the poor, right? With Friar Tuck, right? So like if you have those four elements, you can be Robin Hood. Now, is he a Dave Bautista? Could Dave Bautista play Robin Hood in an action film? Yes, he could. Could you have like a goofy little Fox cartoon character play? Yes, they did it, right? Disney did it back in the day. So another great example is Batman. Like, what is Batman? There's dozens of versions of Batman, but as long as he got the pointy ears, as long as he's, gruff, as long as he doesn't kill people, and as long as his parents are dead, he's Batman, right? So,
swear to me. There we go.
Swear to me. There's different interpretations. So bringing this back together, what makes a great video game movie? It has to tap into the things that make that video game iconic. So when you go back to this trailer for Mortal Kombat, there's obviously like the dragon icon is very iconic, right? They show that in like a kind of a, I think it's like a,
it's like it's a brand on someone's chest.
It's like a brand on his chest. Obviously, things that are iconic: Sub-Zero versus Scorpion. Get over here.
He said it.
I would say the characters themselves, right? Like Raiden and Jax has the robot arms, right? And you even see in that scene where you see like Sub-Zero like break his arms off, and that's a great example of like video game video game lovers know that story, and so when we see that, we're like, oh shoot, they're gonna show Jax's arms getting like ripped off, so like why he has robot arms, and then for non fans of the franchise, they know like, oh my god, dude, that guy's arms got ripped off. And then also just overall, it was very gory and like violence.
I was gonna say, like,
I think that's what that game is. So.
Especially in Mortal Kombat, I'm with you on that. Like you have to understand in essence, why people enjoy that video game. What makes that video game special? What are the iconic moments? The fact get over here. You have to, if you're going to have Scorpion in a Mortal Kombat movie, you have to have that in there. Like, full stop. Think of every Mortal Kombat movie, or the other two that we've had that had Scorpion in it.
Yeah.
He was in there, get over here, doing his little thing. You have to have those beats there. And I really think, especially as of late, directors and movie companies have gotten a lot better with that. And really, honestly, I think the main reason is because we are getting older. And, back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s when these movies were rolling out, and they were, it felt, it could easily be said, and it felt more like they, the corporate guys were just trying to cash grab. Oh, people like Street Fighter. Let's, get the buffest guy you've got, and we'll put him in a Street Fighter movie, and we'll kind of just generally slap everything together and make sure that the outfits look right. Whatever, it's fine. As opposed to nowadays, where you have directors and people who are old enough that have played these games, been a gamer, lived with these games for decades on end, they have a very strong understanding of how those games work and kind of what makes them tick. And so now they can come at this, okay, go to the studio, the first thing, like, look, we want to make this Mortal Kombat movie. First thing you need to understand, this has to be rated R. There has to be blood. We have, how far can we push the limit? Because it's not a Mortal Kombat movie if there's no blood in the movie. It's like full stop. Like fans are immediately going to be like, oh, no blood, don't care, and things like that. And I'm happy. I'm very happy that I'm seeing more of that. I really am.
Yeah, I agree with I think you really hit the heart of what is happening. Like, why all of a sudden are video game movies getting better? Right? We went from Super Mario Brothers movie, which I would probably say is one of the worst like gaming films of all time, right? Because it was, and I think that's like the epitome of that suit that doesn't care about video games, looking at games and thinking that there's dollar signs there, right? And then they just kind of do the absolute bare minimum to try and get something out the door. Then you move into like the early 2000s, where some ones that stick out to me are the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider films, the Resident Evil films, and the there was one other that I was thinking of. I can't think of it right now, but like, they're not bad, but they're also very hollow shells. Like, what could you tell me about the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider films? She had two guns and was Lara Croft, but like nothing about that movie really stood out.
The plot, they nailed the character, but not the world surrounding her all that well.
And so that's where I think the other side of the coin comes in, because if you go back to the original Mortal Kombat film, which is not a bad film by any means, and I'm talking about the one from I believe it was it 1998 or 1999, somewhere 95. In that. 95. Okay, so a little earlier. That was not a bad film, and that film had a lot of the check boxes that you want from a Mortal Kombat. When we talk about the icons, right? Like the get over here, it had that. It had the Sub-Zero fighting Scorpion. It had all of those things, but I don't think it quite broke out of becoming it. It never really like lived in the hearts of non-Mortal Kombat fans, right? And that's where you kind of get to today. And there are two things I think that have completely changed the landscape. One is a little bit older. One is within the last 3 years. But the idea that now movies are content that's not quite as risky as it used to be. When you look at what Netflix has done, they take a lot of risks on the type of movies that would probably not succeed in a traditional theater. Now I think Mortal Kombat would. Like that, I think if theaters were open, Mortal Kombat would be coming out in theaters. But what this has done is COVID's kind of forced us onto this track where like streaming has to be in the conversation, right? And that when you do that, it becomes more of like, well, do we really want to invest like $1 bajillion into one big movie when we could take that money and diversify it out into 2 or 3 other films that maybe not be, may not be that high quality, but will hit on different levels that people want, right? So you take that, but then my point here, I'm focusing it back down, is I think everything about nerd movies changed with the release of Iron Man. Iron Man is probably one of the most important film releases ever when you think about what blockbuster films are. So before Iron Man, blockbuster films were made by Steven Spielberg, by George Lucas. They were usually original ideas or adaptations of books that were heavily modified. Jurassic Park comes to mind, right? Like technically a book, not really though. It's, like it's his own vision of that. And that's what a blockbuster film was. But after Iron Man, we learned that if you take source material that is like comic book, that's visual in nature, and you bring that to life with, here's my bold italicized, good story, then it becomes something greater than the sum of its parts, right? So like, to get back to that original thing, I said earlier that like there's 2 parts to a movie release, before it comes out and when it actually launches, right? I would say that Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker was probably the most popular Star Wars film before it came out. Then it came out, right? And the conversation turned, especially with a lot of Star Wars fans. And that's where you start to get into this problem of like, yes, companies are really good at hyping us up. They're good at showing us trailers that are really good. But what is the key to a good video game movie? The key to a good video game movie is to be a good movie. Everything about all the little fun nuggets that we've been talking about, they should be sprinkles on top. They should be what really makes us think about the movie. Think about a movie like Iron Man. No one gives a shit about Iron Man before Iron Man. He was a maybe B tier, probably closer to C tier when you think about like the mainstream populace. But you had the right actor, the right role, and the right story all converged to make a fantastic movie that launched what I would say the most successful franchise as far as like consistently high quality content. Like it's up there with Star Wars, and they've made 3 times as many films. So
agreed.
It's really something. So like you look at Mortal Kombat, yes, they're checking the boxes. However, is the story going to be good? Who is the main character? What is the conflict? And how are the characters interacting? If they can interact, it's great.
It's something to, and speaking of, like, say this real quick, it's something like, just like you said, making a good movie first. It's just like what they were doing with all the other movies. You make a great foundation, a great movie that's structured, that flows, that does everything well, and you have the themes, the coding, the characters, and the iconic movesets in those from those video games that that the hardcore fans are going to enjoy. You focus making those the kind of top coding instead of making that the meat. And then, back in the old times when they tried focusing too much on fan service, they forgot the meat of the meat of the movie, and the fact that a lot of the people that are going to see this are the general populace that probably have never played this game in the series. And I know that a lot of the times what these movies want to achieve is that they want you to go watch the movie so you can be like, man, that was a dope movie, and have your friend tell you, it's based on a video game. Here's the game. Go play it.
Yeah.
And increase game sales after that. And so like I 100% agree with you that it's once they realized that they can just use this just like they have done other source material like books and stuff in the past, then it was a lot easier to make really good video game movies here. Seth, before we wrap up, I want us to take a few minutes time before we wrap up first topic.
Yeah.
What are some of what do you consider, what are some of the best or your favorite video game movies, and what do you think are some of the worst, or just absolute worst?
I mean, the worst is Super Mario Brothers. That is, I don't.
Bad.
There's not a film worse than that.
So
A close second would probably be no, it wouldn't be a close second. A distant second would be the Doom film with Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
Oh, see, you know, I know that's a bad movie, but I liked it, and I'm an action junkie, so and it had The Rock and it had Carl Urban, and I love those guys, so yeah.
It's I mean, it's one of those. That's
but I will have to counter.
Good. Okay.
The worst movie, video game wise, because I'm looking at a list of some examples.
Oh, you pulled up a list.
It can't be Super Mario Brothers. Not when the Blood Rain movie exists.
Oh, see, I'm talking about movies that human beings might have actually seen at some point. Yeah, you're right. Blood Rain is probably the worst.
The Uwe Boll movie, which is, boy, we could dedicate a topic to that. I think one of the better ones, you know, we talk about, funny enough, in recent memory, Sonic the Hedgehog was, thank God they listened to fan feedback and redesigned Sonic. That was a great movie. That was a great video game themed movie. What's another one? I'm a fan. It's not like top tier. I would probably call it B tier movies, but I'm a big fan of the Warcraft movie. I liked what they were trying to do. I think they missed the mark on a few things, but it's middle of the pack. I liked it better than a lot of other video game movies out there.
I remember you and I and Will in a hotel room with a bunch of Angry Orchards watching the Warcraft movie on Will's laptop. And that was the first time that I think that I grew up in the South, super Christian, so I was taught that drinking was horrible, right? And the most horrible thing you could do. But that was the first time that I was like, I'm going to drink alcoholic beverages. And there was no better way to do it. Like, the Warcraft movie is the best movie to get drunk to. Yes, it was. I would agree. I think that's a solid above average, but remember the average is really fucking low.
Yeah,
so.
It's helping to even out the curve, you know, whatever you call it.
I had mixed feelings about Sonic. Ironically enough, I think all humans realized that Sonic the Hedgehog was the last movie they saw in theaters because it came out right before the pandemic, and so we're all worried that might have been the last theater movie we ever see. But I had mixed feelings about that one because I think that they did a lot of check boxing. You know, like, oh, it's got the rings, it's got the coins, it's funny, but it really did feel a lot like. I think that Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik carried most of that film because of just how goofy and funny he was. But like when I think about the scenes that don't have Robotnik in it, I was kind of like, it's all right. He goes fast. Ben Schwartz.
You got to go fast.
Gotta go fast. But I think that the future is bright. And I think that we're going to continue to see an increase in quality. I think Witcher, not a movie, but Witcher was a great example of how to translate that video game content
show on Netflix.
To a TV show.
Agreed.
I do think that The Last of Us will really be probably one of the best, just because it's a movie anyways.
It's got HBO money behind it.
It's got HBO money. That game is basically a movie anyways, and they've got a star-studded cast lined up. So I think that as people that grew up loving the video games get into that, sorry, I just remembered Detective Pikachu. I was going to say, great film.
How have we not mentioned that? Dude, that film was great.
Pikachu, yeah, that film was great. Any issues you have with that story are not with the movie, they are with the game, because that story is from the game on 3DS. And I think the end of that movie is a little flat, but man, that's a great film. So
I think
I know we need to wrap up. So I just wanted to say I think things are going up from here. I really think they are.
I think so too. I feel like, especially for us, Seth, I would be remiss without also mentioning that there was a Street Fighter movie back in '94. In case for some reason you didn't see it, had Jean-Claude Van Damme. And
it was the most important day of your life. But to me, it was a Tuesday. Hands down the best line ever made in a video game film.
Oh, Raul Julia. Rest in peace, sir.
Rest in peace, my friend. You did a great job in a bad film.
He was great.
Really did.